retaliation from Beijing. Natalie Brand takes a look at what comes next.
With the Trump administration's tariffs on China now in effect, China is punching back, saying it will impose tariffs of its own on U.S. imports. The White House says President Trump plans to speak to Chinese President Xi Jinping soon.
The president made it very clear with the 10% tariff on China that he is not going to allow China to continue to source and distribute deadly fentanyl into our country.
Starting next week, China says it will impose a 15% tariff on coal and liquefied natural gas products coming from the U.S., as well as a 10% tariff on crude oil, agricultural machinery, and large engine cars.
This time they have a slightly different strategy of hitting oil markets.
Philip Luck served as the deputy chief economist at the State Department under the Biden administration.
It's going to reduce demand for U.S. goods and is going to have a negative effect on the economy.
The tit for tat with China comes as proposed tariffs on Mexico and Canada are on pause for at least a month while negotiations over border security continue. Canada has promised more choppers, drones, and personnel, as well as a new position for a fentanyl czar. Mexico's president has promised 10,000 National Guard troops to help block the flow of drugs and migrants. But in the border town of Laredo, Texas, business owners who rely on the flow of trade are still worried.
With an extension of just 30 days, that doesn't push anything. The only thing it does is pushes the line. It doesn't erase the uncertainty.
Many say they're stocking up on Mexican goods now in case tariffs happen down the road, causing prices to increase. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Here at home, an 8-year-old boy who was mauled by a large dog in Wahiawa has died. We're told the child was intellectually disabled. Sources tell us he somehow ended up alone in a neighbor's yard on Ojai Street last Tuesday when the dog, which was on a chain, attacked him. When help arrived, the boy didn't have a pulse. First responders managed to revive him and rushed him to the hospital with severe injuries to his head and neck. Law enforcement sources told HNN Investigates the attack was captured on a home surveillance system. Those sources went on to say the video has been crucial in piecing together exactly what happened.
Many kids with intellectual disabilities, in particular Down syndrome and autism, will elope. And that's where they just have an impulse to go somewhere and they go.
Police have classified the case as an unattended death. The Hawaiian Humane Society says the dog's owner surrendered the animal and it has been euthanized. On Hawaii Island, a man is dead after he crashed his motorcycle into a dump truck in Pahoa. It happened at around 3:30 yesterday afternoon on Kea'au-Pahoa Road, right near the police station there. Police tell us the man, who is believed to be in his 30s or 40s, had been overtaking several cars on the shoulder. He then hit the truck that was turning right. Police say speed and intoxication may have played a role. An 86-year-old woman is fighting for her life after a suspected DUI crash in Hilo. She was the passenger in a vehicle that crashed into a ditch and a rock embankment last Thursday on Kaumana Drive. She was rushed in critical condition to Hilo Benioff Medical Center, but is now being treated at Queens Hospital on Oahu. The driver of the car, an 84-year-old man, was arrested. He has been released pending investigation. A bicyclist injured in a hit-and-run crash is pleading for the driver to come forward. 37-year-old Army Master Sergeant Eduardo Potter and his wife were on an anniversary bike ride in Kailua on Saturday when he was hit by an SUV. It happened at Kainalu Drive and Ku'ule Road. Potter says he was in the bike lane on Kainalu Drive when the SUV turned right onto Ku'ule, hit him, and then dragged him for several feet.
And then I remember hearing a pedestrian yelling, "Stop, stop." And my instincts was to slam the brakes. The problem was that instead of stopping, the car kept going. To the driver, I would say, "Please come forward. You just own up to the mistake," right?
Potter was wearing a helmet, but he was still suffering from bruising, road rash, and a bloody face. His bike was also damaged, and he believes the right side of the SUV has a dent. Any tips, please call Crime Stoppers at the number on your screen. Important changes for Maui tenants and landlords. The island's eviction moratorium imposed by the governor to help wildfire evacuees nearly 18 months ago expires today. Starting tomorrow, landlords can start the process of kicking out tenants who haven't been paying rent. Landlords must first notify Maui Mediation Services, and tenants can force landlords to attend mediation if they schedule it within 15 days of receiving the eviction notice.
The tenant right now can contact us before that February 5th date because we want to bring landlords and tenants together to see if they can work out their own solutions.
It's really important for people to understand that eviction only happens when a judge says that you are evicted. He'll give you a piece of paper. It's called a writ, and that is the moment that eviction actually happens.
Rent increases are still illegal. If you are a tenant or landlord who needs guidance, you can call the number there on your screen. And FEMA completed 167 temporary homes for Lahaina wildfire survivors. The final modular home at the Kilohana Group housing site was just installed. Some families started moving in back in November, and we're told others are expected to move in over the next 2 months. The modular homes are built to last more than 30 years. The American Airlines jet and Army Black Hawk helicopter that collided nearly a week ago are being pulled from the Potomac River. Officials say it'll take several days to remove all of the wreckage and recover the last of the victims who are accounted for. Chris Van Cleve is following the investigation and the recovery.
It was a haunting sight Monday as pieces of the American Airlines regional jet were pulled out of the Potomac River just 5 days after the deadliest U.S. air crash in more than 2 decades. Among them, the battered midsection of the plane's fuselage, one of the engines, and a wing.
Over the next 24 hours, our goal is really to complete our commitment to finishing the civilian plane recovery.
DC Fire says additional remains were recovered in Monday's salvage mission and are in the process of being identified.
We have positively identified 55 sets of remains.
Newly released drone video from the National Transportation Safety Board shows a first look at the scene hours after the crash, the Black Hawk helicopter appearing mostly intact. Investigators say they're still poring over both aircraft's flight data and cockpit voice recorders and have obtained training and flight logs for both flight crews, maintenance logs for both aircraft, and are building the crew's daily histories, as well as completed interviews with all 5 air traffic controllers working the night of the collision, as the NTSB tries to piece together what happened.
There are questions about should the military helicopters be sharing the airspace with commercial traffic.
The answer to that is yes. It happens all the time. So this is not a zero-sum game. We are in this national capital region. What we should look at is say, have we missed anything in terms of how this is designed, how the routes of are designed, and is there anything that we would, should, or could do differently to prevent this from happening again?
At skating rinks across the country, a moment of silence was held Monday remembering the 67 lives lost, including those in the ice skating community, as investigators push for answers. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Arlington, Virginia.
Let's take a live look now at the Kilauea volcano, where we can see a new phase of the eruption that just started last night just before 10. Now, this is the 8th episode since it began on December 23rd. The USGS says it's fountaining from the north vent, with some fountain heights reaching over 250 feet. It's also feeding multiple lava streams, which are now covering about 20% of the crater floor.
And happy Tuesday, everybody. Of course, with the eruption at Kilauea, we're tracking fog over on Hawaii Island. We still have northeasterly winds across most of the state, but I want to show you our latest fog forecast. As we're going throughout the rest of this afternoon, you can see most of the sulfur dioxide and the other fumes coming from the volcano are going to stay blowing towards the south. These northeasterly winds are keeping the fog, impacting the area around Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, South Point, and the Kona Coast as well. We could see some impacts over in Hilo and along the northern portions of Hawaii Island, but it's keeping it away from the rest of the island chain. Coming up in my full forecast, I'll give you a breakdown hour by hour what we can expect throughout the rest of this evening and talk about the quiet week ahead.
President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu meet at a critical time for U.S. relations with Israel. I'm Erica Brown at the White House with more and the new executive orders that could impact Palestinian aid.
Also ahead on This Is Now, former city officials take a plea deal tied to a payout for an ex-police chief who's now in prison. We'll be right back. The city corruption case that put former police chief Louis Kealoha in prison is coming to an end. There will be plea agreements for 3 city officials who arranged his retirement payout. Daryl Huff has the details.
The case of the Kealoha payoff cover-up began with an indictment almost exactly 4 years ago and will end with no one going to jail, but some hefty payments to the city, which one expert on the case calls fair.
So I think all in all, it was very beneficial to both sides.
Federal prosecutors alleged that in 2017, Police Commission Chair Max Sword negotiated the $250,000 severance payoff to Chief Kealoha, who was under criminal investigation. Corporation Counsel Donna Leong was charged with engineering the payoff, trying to cover it up, and lying to investigators. Managing Director Roy Amamiya was also indicted for conspiracy. But as they arrived in court today, they were all smiles, knowing the case had been resolved.
This was going to be a tough case. They could have been convicted of felonies, or they might have won this case. It wasn't clear cut. So for the government walks away with no trial, the assurance of at least some guilty pleas and some large fines imposed.
Under their deals, Leong and Sword will plead guilty to misdemeanor conspiracy to deprive rights under law and pay $100,000 in restitution each.
Hi, Daryl. We cannot comment at this time.
Okay, Donna, how do you feel?
We just can't comment at this time.
Amamiya's misdemeanor charge will be dismissed with no conviction or admission of guilt if he completes 2 years of supervision, does community service, and pays $50,000 in restitution. How about just your feelings, Roy, after all of this time?
I don't think I can comment either, Daryl.
After some questions about the unusual deal, Judge Leslie Kobayashi said, "Now that I understand, I am willing to accept the sentencing agreements agreed to by the parties." What just happened in there?
I can't say anything. I'll talk to you after the next one.
It was then Public Defender Alexander Silvert who figured out that his client, Gerard Puana, was being framed for a mailbox theft by prosecutor Catherine Kealoha and her husband, Chief Kealoha. A federal prosecutor from San Diego, Michael Wheat, took the case and won convictions. Wheat then tried and failed to convict city prosecutor Keith Kaneshiro for bribery, then pursued the Kealoha payoff case. That's ending with just misdemeanor charges, but Silvert appreciates Wheat's impact.
It's because of what he did that there's all these prosecutions for bribery and fraud in this state, and that the legislature is looking at increasing state laws and at their own ethics.
This case will end on March 4th when the judge formally accepts the plea agreements. The restitution amounts, and I doubt this is a coincidence, add up to $250,000, the same amount as KLO has payoff. Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Daryl. President Trump is meeting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss the ceasefire with Hamas. Israelis are desperate to get more hostages released, while Palestinians are expressing concern about what happens next. Erica Brown has more.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived for talks at the White House, the first foreign leader visit of President Trump's second term. Hamas says negotiations are underway for the second phase of the ceasefire deal, but Trump has previously warned there is no guarantee it will hold. In Israel, family members of hostages still held in Gaza pleaded for their loved ones' return.
I'm standing here in front of the American consulate because we need the United States, we need President Trump and his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, to help us seal the second and the third part of the deal.
Trump signed 2 more executive orders today, withdrawing the U.S. from the UN Human Rights Council and cutting funding for a Palestinian relief agency.
A lot of these conflicts that we're working on should be settled, or at least we should have some help in settling them. We never seem to get help. That should be the primary purpose of the UN, the United Nations.
Many refugees say they'll be watching what comes out of today's White House meeting. This man said, Netanyahu's visit to Trump is anticipated to reflect his future plans to forcibly displace the Palestinian people and redraw the Middle East. I sincerely hope this plan does not succeed.
The Gaza thing has not worked. It's never worked.
Trump has repeatedly touted a plan to clean out Gaza, suggesting Palestinians be relocated to Egypt or Jordan.
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site.
Steve Witkoff, the president's special envoy to the Middle East, says it could take up to 15 years to rebuild the destroyed area of Gaza. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
And stick around, your first alert full forecast is coming up. We've got cool air and some fog over on Hawaii Island. The details coming up.
First alert weather.
with Drew Davis.
Well, happy Aloha Tuesday, everybody. Here's our big, bold headlines. We've got cool air across most of the state and some fog over on Hawaii Island. We took a look at our fog forecast earlier. I do want to show you most of that fog is going to be impacting Hawaii Island. Because of these north and northeasterly winds, we're really not going to be seeing much impacts across the rest of the island chain. You can see as we go throughout the rest of Tuesday, you see the impacts keeping the fog over the southern portions of Hawaii Island, moving along the Kona coast and impacting the areas around Hawaii Volcanoes National Park as well. We'll continue to see this wind pattern going forward. I do want to show you our island by island forecast as we're going forward. For Kauai, we'll see some sunny conditions, light trade winds. They'll become more light as we're going into the evening. This is for Wednesday. Going down the island chain, still cool out there. Just take a look at those low temperatures out there. You can see 64 degrees in town in Kapolei, a little bit more humid over in Kaneohe, so we'll be seeing a warmer low temperature as you're waking up tomorrow morning. Maui County, sunny, some light winds as well. Northeasterlies around 5 to 10 miles per hour. And taking a look at Maui itself, you can see Kahului around 79 degrees tomorrow for a high temperature. So cool for Hawaii standards. Taking a look at Hawaii Island, scattered evening showers and foggy over there, especially with the ongoing eruption at Kilauea. That's going to be the case over the southern and southeastern portions of Hawaii Island as well. But most of the fog should stay away from Hilo because of the northeasterly winds we're experiencing at the surface. The northern portions, partly sunny and scattered showers are expected as well. Now we're seeing temperatures around 79 degrees in town. Northeasterlies around 14 miles per hour. You're going to need your shades this week. You're going to need a surfboard. You also need an extra blanket as you're waking up in the morning because it's relatively cool out there. We do have high surf advisories up on north and east facing shores. That's going to continue until 6 p.m. on Tuesday. This is including all islands of the island chain except for Lanai right now, because this is a northeasterly swell. Lanai is protected by Molokai and Maui as this swell is moving in. Taking a quick look at your surf and shoreline forecast. This is for this afternoon. North-facing shores around 10 to 15 feet. West-facing shores 6 to 8. And east-facing shores seeing a boost as well, around 6 to 8 feet out there. Your first alert 7-day forecast. You can see beautiful weather out there expected over the next couple of days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, relatively sunny across the entire state. 80 degrees on Tuesday for a high temperature. 81 on Thursday, and these low temperatures are going to remain cool. You might need an extra blanket as you're waking up the next several days.
Thank you, Drew. Still to come, the sights and sounds from Super Bowl opening night. We'll take you to New Orleans in 2 minutes. let's get to some good news. Super Bowl week is underway in New Orleans, and the players took on the media last night.
Omar Villafranca reports.
It's only fitting to start Super Bowl week in the Big Easy to the sounds of New Orleans and the St. Augustine High School Marching 100. The Eagles flew to the field first and landed in a nest full of media. With the Bird faithful in the stands and on the sidelines.
What are the keys to winning the cheer fight?
I think the major key is keeping the fans pumped up. We all have high energy, so we want to take that Eagles energy from Philly and bring it to NOLA here.
Star running back Saquon Barkley has set franchise records for both the New York Giants and Eagles, but a shot at Super Bowl glory would be a first in his career.
I never lost faith, and I just kept my head down and kept working.
And just how many times might we see quarterback Jalen Hurts bring out this effective and signature play?
Hurts is in! Touchdown, Eagles!
The tush push, brotherly shove. That's not how he refers to it at all.
I don't call it that. You guys call it that. Call it the quarterback sneak. I keep it very standard.
On the other side of the field, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes was taking the tough questions with those references to his dad bod back in the spotlight.
Can you check both sides? Which side?
Come on, bro. You didn't want to have to hide. Hey, the dad bod looks pretty good right there. I'm gonna side this side, man, for sure.
For Chiefs owner Clark Hunt, that winning feeling never gets old.
We certainly have experience having gone 5 decades between Super Bowl 4 and Super Bowl 54. So we now know how hard it is, and we know how special the last 5 or 6 years has been.
And that comes with a few disgruntled fans. Not that tight end Travis Kelce has noticed.
People hate the Chiefs? I didn't know that.
And if you thought you were going to go this whole story without hearing about Taylor Swift, you're wrong. Travis Kelce was asked about their relationship, and one of the most favorite things that he really enjoys about it, he says she makes him homemade Pop-Tarts sometimes for breakfast. Now, I want to show you something else. After we talked to the Chiefs owner, Clark Hunt, we noticed that his wife, Tavia, had some rings on, and we've got a closer look at the last 3 Super Bowl rings. She was wearing them. Obviously, they're hoping for another one that would be a three-peat. It was almost as impressive as that giant diamond she had on as well. A lot of storylines here in the Super Bowl. It's early, but the game, of course, will be on Sunday. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, New Orleans.
And Drew, I know you are a Cowboys fan, so how do you feel about this Super Bowl?
I feel like I can't root for either team.
Yeah.
I don't want the Chiefs to win, and I hate the Eagles.
Yeah.
I was saying to you during the story, I feel like this Super Bowl hasn't been making as big of a splash as last year's because nobody wants to root for either of these teams.
Yeah, I'm here for the halftime show as always.
Yes, Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, he won all those Grammys, so he probably has some big expectations.
I am very excited for that. I love watching the commercials as well.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm very excited.
All right, well, thanks for watching. This is Now. More headlines first at 4 right here on KHNL. Aloha.